let's be brutally honest. A woman never chases a man because he tried harder. She chases him because for the first time she feels the terrifying weight of losing him. And nothing makes her feel that fear more sharply, more unexpectedly, and more uncontrollably than your silence. You don't realize this yet, but silence is not the absence of communication. It is a message, a warning, a shift in power she didn't see coming. And when it comes from a man she once felt secure around, it hits her like a cold wind in the middle of a warm room, sudden, confusing, and impossible to ignore. You see, every woman expects your attention. She expects your reassurance, your patience, your effort, your words. She gets used to the rhythm of your presence, the softness of your certainty, the comfort of knowing you're always right there when she wants you. But what she doesn't expect is the day you stop feeding her ego, the day you stop chasing, the day you stop explaining yourself, defending your worth, or fighting for space in her life. That silence, your silence, disrupts her entire emotional system. Because here's the truth she'll never admit out loud. A woman isn't afraid of losing a man she doesn't respect. She fears losing the man who brought value, stability, and energy into her life. She fears losing the man she thought would always stay. And the moment you stop talking, stop reacting, stop giving, she's forced to confront a question she never wanted to ask herself. Why doesn't he need me anymore? That question keeps her awake at night. It makes her replay every moment, every conversation, every argument, looking for the exact second she pushed too far. It makes her analyze your Instagram stories, the timing of your replies, the shift in your tone, searching for clues like someone who suddenly realizes they misplaced something priceless. Because deep down, a woman knows when a man's silence isn't anger, but indifference. And indifference is the one thing she can't control. Silence makes her uncomfortable because it exposes her own patterns. It reflects her emotional games back at her with painful accuracy. She's used to being the one who withdraws to gain the upper hand. She's used to being the one who goes cold to create tension. She's used to being the one who decides when to reconnect. But when a man does it, genuinely, calmly, without revenge or manipulation, her entire playbook collapses. She begins to chase you not because she suddenly loves you more, but because the equilibrium she relied on has shattered. Because she can't stand the thought of you rebuilding your life in silence, brick by brick, without her contributing a single piece. Because she senses that silence is not passive, it is transformational. It means you're becoming the man she underestimated. And understand this, your silence is powerful only when it comes from a place of self-respect, not punishment. Women can feel the difference. If you're silent just to get a reaction, she knows. If you're silent because you're scared, she knows. But when you're silent because you've chosen peace over chaos, growth over begging, dignity over clinging, she feels that shift in her bones. That's when the fear starts. The fear of being replaced, the fear of lost access, the fear of realizing you were the prize all along. And suddenly, the woman who once kept you waiting is now waiting on you. The woman who once took you for granted is now trying to figure out how to matter again. The woman who once pulled away is now inching closer, watching your moves, trying to understand the man she thought she had fully decoded. Because silence isn't distance. Silence is evolution. And evolution forces people to catch up or fall behind. When a man goes silent, a woman feels the truth she tried to ignore. She never had as much power as she thought. You want to know why your silence hits her so deeply? Because silence is the one thing she can't argue with, manipulate, or negotiate. It forces her to sit alone with the version of herself she pretended didn't exist. The version that took you for granted, assumed you'd always be available, and believed you would never stop choosing her even when she stopped choosing you. And now, without your words to soften the truth, she feels every consequence of her actions echoing back to her. Your silence becomes a mirror she didn't ask for, but desperately needed. You see, most women expect emotional consistency from men. They expect to be prioritized. They expect attention on demand, not because they're entitled, but because most men give their energy away too easily. Most men respond instantly, explain endlessly, chase constantly, defend themselves repeatedly, hoping to be understood, hoping to be seen, hoping to be validated. And when you once belonged to that same pattern, she categorized you. She labeled you predictable. She assumed your love was permanent and your effort was guaranteed. Then one day, without warning, you didn't play along. That shift hits her harder than you think. Because when a man who once cared deeply stops speaking, it sends a signal no amount of guessing, assuming, or imagining can soothe. It tells her something has changed, something in you, something in the dynamic, something she can't control with a cute text or a half-hearted apology. And that terrifies her. Women don't fear losing a relationship. Yeah. They fear losing the emotional advantage. Your silence takes that away instantly. Suddenly, she's the one wondering if you're talking to someone else. She's the one replaying every fight in her mind. She's the one checking her phone, trying to pretend she isn't waiting for a message that isn't coming. She's the one feeling the absence of your presence like an unexpected drop in temperature. And the irony, she will never admit any of this. Not to you, not to her friends, not even to herself, but she feels it. Silence exposes her attachment style. It reveals who she is when she's no longer in control. If she cared, even a little, your silence will crack her confidence. She may act calm on the outside, posting pictures, pretending to be unbothered, laughing louder than necessary, showing up online as if nothing affects her. But behind that performance, her mind is on you, on your absence, on the possibility that you've finally detached. Because women know something men forget. Silence is usually the final stage before a man moves on. Not the anger stage, not the begging stage, not the arguing stage, the silent stage. The stage where he looks inward instead of outward, where he rebuilds instead of trying to fix someone, where he chooses himself instead of waiting to be chosen. Your silence signals emotional maturity. It signals growth. It signals that you value your peace more than the attention you once craved. And that shift makes her question everything. About you, about herself, about what she thought she could control. Understand something important. Women don't chase because you disappeared. They chase because your silence forces them to confront the question they spent months avoiding. Was he the stable one? Was he the real one? Was he the one I shouldn't have pushed away? And once that question enters her mind, it doesn't leave easily. It lingers, it grows. It spreads into every memory she has of you. It colors her perception of future men. It makes her wonder if she misjudged your worth, your importance, your energy. Because silence isn't empty. It's full of meaning, full of answers, full of truth. And it always makes her chase what she underestimated. There's another reason your silence makes her chase you. One that goes deeper than fear, deeper than insecurity, deeper than ego. It taps into something primal, something instinctive. Something buried under all the modern dating noise. The undeniable attraction women feel toward a man who controls his emotions instead of being controlled by them. And nothing displays that mastery more clearly than choosing silence over reaction. Because here's the truth. Most men talk too much when they should be observing. Most men argue when they should be evaluating. Most men explain themselves when they should be walking away. And when a woman sees a man who refuses to get dragged into emotional chaos, who remains calm, grounded, unfazed, that energy pulls her in like gravity. Your silence tells her you're not desperate. Your silence tells her you're not intimidated. Your silence tells her you're not dependent on her validation. Women chase what feels emotionally safe and psychologically strong. But strength isn't loud. Strength isn't angry. Strength isn't reactive. Strength is quiet. Strength is composed. Strength is unbothered. And your silence becomes the purest form of that strength. It shows her you don't need to defend your worth. You don't need to prove your value. You don't need to fight to be understood. She sees a man who can stand in the storm of her moods, her doubts, her confusion, and not crumble. That is rare for her. Rare enough to make her rethink everything she assumed about you. Rare enough to make her realize she misjudged your emotional depth. Rare enough to make her question whether she underestimated the weight of your presence in her life. And here's the twist she'll never openly admit. Your silence gives her the space to feel the emotional consequences she tried to avoid. When you were always available, she never had to confront her own behaviors. She never had to see the impact of her indifference. She never had to acknowledge the damage caused by her mixed signals or inconsistencies. But when you go silent, suddenly she feels the emptiness she created. She feels the distance she caused. She feels the absence of a man who once made her feel chosen. That's where the chase begins. Not from ego, but from realization. Realization that you were more important than she allowed herself to admit. Realization that your presence brought stability, security, direction. realization that your energy was grounding her in ways she never appreciated until it was gone. Silence allows her to feel what life is like without you, and that contrast is powerful. Because a woman will always compare every new connection, every new moment, every new man to the emotional impact you once had. And when your silence communicates strength, clarity, and self-respect, that impact becomes almost impossible to replace. Your silence subtly rewrites the dynamic. She becomes the one who checks first. She becomes the one who wonders more. She becomes the one who initiates. She becomes the one who feels the uncertainty. And uncertainty is the birthplace of attraction, because a woman will never chase a man she fully understands, fully controls, or fully predicts. But she will chase a man who makes her feel something she can't quite describe. A man who makes her question her decisions. A man who makes her reflect on her own actions. A man who, through silence alone, forces her to elevate her own behavior. That is why silence works. It's not manipulation, it's maturity. It pulls her into a level of accountability she's never had to reach before. And accountability, for a woman who truly values you, becomes the spark that ignites her pursuit. Your silence reveals your strength. Her reaction reveals her truth. There's something else your silence awakens in her. Something she hoped she would never have to feel again. The memory of every man who failed her, every connection that slipped away, every moment where she realized too late that someone valuable had walked out of her life. Your silence becomes a trigger, but not the kind she's used to controlling. It's a reminder, a flashback, a quiet echo of abandonment she thought she'd forgotten. Because when you stop speaking, when you stop reaching out, when you stop filling the spaces with reassurance, she suddenly remembers what loss feels like. Not the dramatic kind, the subtle kind, the slow kind, the kind that creeps up through little changes she pretended didn't matter, the kind that starts with distance and ends with someone never coming back. Your silence forces her to confront her past, but even more than that, it forces her to confront her present. She begins to ask herself questions she never wanted to ask. Did I push him too far? Was I selfish? Did I take advantage of him? Did he finally realize he deserves better? These questions eat at her, not because she's weak, but because your silence creates a vacuum where her mind fills in the truth she tried to ignore. And here's the truth she tries hardest to avoid. A woman only chases when she feels the loss of a man who once made her life easier, calmer, more stable, or more meaningful. She chases the man who brought something into her world that she can't replicate elsewhere. And when you fall silent, she realizes just how much she relied on your presence. Not just emotionally, but mentally, psychologically, spiritually. Your silence becomes emotional contrast, the before and after, the comfort and the absence, the presence and the void. And contrast is what makes the mind wake up. She starts noticing details she ignored before. How quiet her notifications are, how empty her evenings feel, how strange it is not seeing your name pop up. How different her days are without your voice in them. She won't say it, she'll act normal, she'll move through life pretending she's unbothered, but her thoughts are louder than ever. And they all revolve around one growing fear. What if he doesn't come back this time? Because silence, when it's rooted in growth and self-respect, has a finality to it, a strength, a certainty. It signals that you're not stuck in the past anymore. You're not emotionally chasing your own potential. You're choosing peace instead of chaos, clarity instead of confusion, and standards instead of excuses. And that transformation shakes her. It makes her question her own value in your life. It makes her wonder how she fits into the new version of you, the quieter, calmer, wiser version. The version who doesn't need to respond to everything, the version who isn't emotionally reactive, the version who has options, direction, and purpose. Women are intuitive. She can feel when your silence isn't about punishment, but evolution. She can feel when you're not trying to pull her in, you're simply moving forward. She can feel when she's no longer the center of your attention. And that realization is what makes her chase. Because no woman wants to be replaced. No woman wants to lose access to a man who brought emotional security. No woman wants to watch a strong man walk away without turning back. Your silence doesn't just make her chase, it makes her reflect. It makes her regret. It makes her reevaluate everything she thought she had figured out about you. And in that reflection, she sees the truth she avoided for months. You were never the one who needed her to stay. She was the one hoping you never left. There's one final truth you need to understand about why your silence makes her chase you. One most men never realize until it's too late. Silence doesn't just create distance, it creates clarity. Not just for her, but for you. And that clarity shifts the entire dynamic in a way no argument, no explanation, and no apology ever could. Your silence allows you to see everything clearly for the first time. How she treated you, how she valued you, how she responded to your presence, and how she reacted to your absence. Silence is the ultimate test of a woman's intentions, because a woman who truly cared, even if she was confused, even if she was overwhelmed, even if she was imperfect, will feel your silence deeply. She will notice, she will reflect, she will reach out, she will show effort in ways she never did before, not because she's desperate, but because she realizes your energy was meaningful, because she realizes you weren't like the rest, because she realizes she misread your worth. But a woman who didn't care, who was just using you for attention, validation, or convenience? Your silence exposes her instantly. She won't chase, she won't reflect, she won't feel anything beyond the loss of a distraction. And that's the gift of silence. It reveals whose heart was real and whose presence was only temporary. That's why silence is so powerful for you as a man. It protects your dignity, it reveals her truth, and it forces the universe to filter out anyone who was never meant to stay. But let's go deeper. Your silence isn't just something she reacts to, it's something she studies. She looks at what you're doing instead of talking. She watches how you move when you aren't explaining yourself. She sees you investing in your life instead of chasing hers. She notices how your energy changes when you choose yourself instead of waiting for her to choose you. And that evolution triggers something in her psychology, something ancient, instinctive, and undeniable. Women are drawn to men who are in motion, men who are building, men who are growing, men who are becoming. Your silence allows her to see your direction more clearly than your words ever could. Because words can be emotional, words can be reactive, words can be misunderstood. But silence broadcasts results. She can feel your self-respect rising. She can sense your confidence forming. She can see your independence expanding. She can tell you're no longer emotionally anchored to her. And that's when the fear turns into pursuit. She begins to imagine you with someone else. She starts wondering who gets your attention now. She thinks about the version of you she'll never get back if she waits too long. She realizes you're slipping away silently, calmly, intentionally. And here's the part that stings her the most. She knows she caused it. She knows she pushed you there. She knows your silence is a response to the imbalance she created, so now she feels responsible for fixing it. Your silence makes her chase because it forces her to match the effort she once expected you to carry alone. It resets the emotional scales. It returns the power to its rightful place. Not because you manipulated her, but because you finally respected yourself. Silence transforms you from someone she assumed would always be there into someone she's suddenly afraid of losing. And that shift is what changes everything. So now let me ask you something real. If she reached out tomorrow, truly, sincerely, would you let her back into your life? Or has your silence already shown you the truth you were avoiding? Comment your answer below. Like this video, subscribe for more life-changing insights, and share it with a friend who needs to hear this tonight.